just consider this a kickoff meeting, a preliminary meeting. It's going to be a lengthy process, and there's a lot to discuss, as you'll see through this conversation. So first, let's go ahead and get started with introductions. So if our external stakeholders, could state just your name and your affiliation, that would be great.
Good morning, Kenton Bryan, Northwest Insurance Council.
John Powell with Liberty and State Farm.
Scott Tui with USAA.
Vaughn Van Slyke with
Brandon
American
Vick with
Submarine
NAMIC.
Insurance.
Oh.
Sorry, Brandon.
Melissa
Sean
Crawford, Nationwide.
I'm sorry, Sean Miller, American Property Casualty Insurance Association.
Jennifer Muse, State Farm.
Montana Llewellyn, Northwest Insurance Council.
John Hedegaard, Allstate.
Jenny Ritter, APCIA.
Jeff Sauls, Farmers.
Okay, was there anybody else? Seeing, Michael, we didn't hear from you. There. Okay. All right, well, thank you for those introductions. So let's go ahead and start with some context about the issue itself and the division's past work on it. So as we all know, every Oregonian who owns and drives a car is legally required to maintain auto insurance coverage. Because it's mandatory, the division needs to ensure that auto insurance is affordable and available to all consumers. So that includes low-income communities and historically underserved populations. However, industry practices sometimes rely on non-driving related factors, such as gender, marital status, education, zip code, credit history, which can unintentionally result in disproportionate impacts on underprivileged groups, even when those individuals have, say, clean driving records. So these disparities raise important questions about equitable access and fairness in the auto insurance market. So over the past several years, the division has pursued some legislative solutions to address just these concerns. So these three bills are linked in the meeting agenda. We have House Bill 2043 from 2021 and House Bill 2920 from 2023, which would have prohibited the use of certain non-driving related rating factors, I think including employment status and credit, to promote a rating system based more directly on safe driving behavior. And then this year, we introduced House Bill 2562. So that would have authorized the division to collect race and ethnicity data from auto insurance applicants, policyholders, claimants via their auto insurance carriers. So the goal was to enable a data-driven assessment of how rating practices affect historically disadvantaged communities. So as you probably know, all three bills did not pass. So with that being said, we remain committed to this issue, and we're taking this new approach via rulemaking. So this rulemaking effort is intended to equip the division with the data necessary to evaluate whether current rating models result in unintentional discrimination, particularly against communities of color or other protected classes. Of course, because insurers generally don't collect, race data, any potential disparities may be difficult to detect, even if they are unintentional. To address this, we are going to be collaborating with you all to create administrative rules under the Director's Inquiry Authority. That's ORS 731.296. And that will require periodic data submission from auto insurers. So we're thinking the rules will establish specific data elements to be reported, the frequency, cadence of the submissions, and then the format of the submissions. And then all of this data will be used to support a comprehensive study that will involve outside experts and actuarial consultants. So a little bit more background, right? Auto insurers typically use a mix of different categories to calculate risk and premium. So there's the driving related factors, insurance specific factors, and some, demographic factors, right? So of course, years of driving experience, mileage, personal, commercial, ride share, purpose of the vehicle, the insurance specific factors, coverage history, prior lapses in coverage, of course, demographics, age, marital status, zip code, things like that, including sometimes credit-based insurance scores. So Oregon had already took steps in 2003 to restrict the use of credit. So insurers must use credit only in combination with other factors, not as a standalone criterion. And insurers are also required to provide an explanation if the consumer if credit history negatively affects their premium. So even with these things, still concerns remain about fairness and transparency, of how credit-based scoring is applied, when consumers kind of have little understanding or sometimes little control over the underlying data. And from here, so we've been seeing a common theme kind of across jurisdictions. So there's recognition that non-driving factors can produce disparate impacts, and kind of there's this increased demand for data-driven regulation. So we've seen, California banned the use of credit scores in auto rating, and insurers are limited to using only the driving-related factors. Michigan overhauled its auto insurance system in 2019. Prohibiting, gender, marital status, home ownership, et cetera, in auto rating. In Maryland, credit scores can only be used for discounts and not for surcharges. And then we have Colorado, which passed a bill in 2021 that prohibits insurers from using external consumer data and algorithms in a way that unfairly discriminates against protected classes. So all of that is sort of context for our rulemaking efforts. But we definitely want to be focused on data collection and kind of a racial disparity analysis, which we think will be useful in recognizing any trends or patterns if there are any, right? So to move forward, we will need a robust data set. That will probably include loss history. We know that insurers already collect a lot of useful data elements, like I had mentioned before. A big question right now is what other rating variables should we collect? And another related question is sort of how much loss history data, for example, and other data will be needed to make the conclusion that a rating plan is not unintentionally discriminatory. So what we want to do is we want to nail down the exact data fields to put into the rules. So there are going to be more conversations that we'll have to have with experts and actuaries in the coming months. prior to our next RAC meeting. So this will be kind of a lengthier rulemaking process. We plan to use proxy methodologies. So there's one used by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is the Bayesian Improved Surname Geocoding Method, BISG, which integrates both surname and location data to estimate the likelihood that a policyholder is part of a particular racial group. And this methodology is widely used in fair lending enforcement. It's grounded in US census data. So by pairing that sort of analysis with other data, let's say, premium information, claim information, we can identify patterns of potential disparate impact even without directly collecting race data. So as we proceed, I would just kind of like your initial thoughts, initial input, and not necessarily today, but just in the coming weeks and months as well. So things that we can talk about today are sort of which elements, you would like to see included in the rules, how much data do we need, the period of time, like I said before, the cadence and, reporting format. We want to balance the regulatory value of this work with, the feasibility for you, administrative feasibility. Would like to hear any concerns you have about proxy methodologies, and how we can address those concerns. And then, like I said before, we are going to actually be going through an RFP process for a third-party actuarial firm or consultants. So it won't be us performing the study. So if you have any suggestions for those types of consultants, that we can hire, that would be great information as well. The RFP process, I think, will take at least 6 to 9 months, but we'll kind of be doing that in conjunction with the whole rulemaking process. And then after the rulemaking process is done, that's sort of when the data collection would start. And, there's still a question about the timeline, right? So it'll be a number of years probably of data collection before the study is even conducted. So we're looking at a lengthy timeline, and like I said, there's scheduling out some meetings for the coming, couple months with some other experts, getting the whole RFP process started too. So there's a lot to do with this, but there is not a deadline effective date for these rules. So we have a little bit of flexibility, but we want the rules to become effective in 2026, so that data collection can begin, because that will take a long time. So I know that's a lot, but those are just kind of the high level things. Just wanted to get initial feedback. If you have any, just your thoughts, any suggestions, as we go into these other meetings with other actuaries, and, to really try to nail down specific data elements. That's really a very important part of this. So I will just open it up to everyone, and, please let me know your initial thoughts, and there will be plenty of time for you to submit feedback, and, there will be more conversations. Our next RAC, I'm thinking probably it won't be till October, November. to give us time to nail down some of these other issues. So I will open it up and, oh, I see Michael, you have your hand up. Please go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Michael DeLong, Research and Advocacy Associate with the Consumer Federation of America. We thank you for all your work on this. We think it's a good approach. We're happy to provide information and submit all sorts of comments. You're well aware with our past work where we've looked at credit history in auto insurance and found that it's extremely unfair. It results in people paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars more in premiums, even if they have good driving records. So to look at data collection, credit history is a very obvious one that we think should be looked at. Other factors, and we can write this up in post comments and other things, include gender, someone's education level, their job or occupation, their zip code, whether they own a home or rent their home, marital status as well, which has resulted in some pretty unfair practices where people get charged higher premiums after their spouse passes away. We think that we agree also that there needs to be some sort of collection based to try and determine like the racial impact of these factors. We've done some past reports, relatively simple, about finding out that these factors disproportionately hurt people who tend to be Black and Hispanic and Native American, but a bigger, more comprehensive, more accurate report would be really, really welcome. So we appreciate your work on this. We're ready to help, and we look forward to participating in future meetings.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Those are good suggestions. I appreciate your feedback. All right, anyone else? Maybe on, the data elements, the factors, or, Jennifer, please go ahead.
Hey, Raven. I had a question about the RFP process. My recollection during discussions about this concept was that industry was going to have some conversations about how the consultant was selected. Understand the state paying for something that's going to have to go through an RFP process, but can you kind of talk a little bit more about what that's going to look like and how we all are going to be able to contribute to that? And then I think the second question I have is, you mentioned that the data elements were going to be aligned with whatever the person needed to do the study. But if we're going to select the data elements before the person's been selected, it seems like we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, because if they need a whole group of things that we haven't identified, are we going to be in a kind of, are we getting at what the objective was here, or my understanding anyway?
Yeah, those are good questions. So as for the RFP process, we still need to draft the documents for that. So we're very early on in that, but we'll be as transparent as possible through that process, and kind of figure out how to connect with you on that. But we would love recommendations if you have those, firms that you've worked with, or that that you could suggest to us, maybe that we can reach out to them. But as for the data elements, we want to have these conversations ahead of time, just because we want to make sure that we capture what's needed in the rules themselves, as well, like before the whole study too. So it's I realize it's very complicated, but we're gonna try our best to nail those down in the rule and through the rulemaking process, which is why we're having these conversations kind of early. But we want the rules to accurately reflect what we need. So, the hope is that that would match, what the firm, could use or would be looking for as well. So yeah, definitely want to have conversations with those experts, with actuaries, and with firms that you might suggest to us, so that we can kind of all connect and get the appropriate elements, nailed down. So thank you, Jennifer. Brandon, please go ahead.
Thanks, Raven. Sorry for not being on camera. I'm on the road. I think Jennifer covered a bulk of it, but I do think from our perspective, it's definitely going to be some internal discussions and some getting back to you in writing. I think we understand what you've said, and I think obviously a focus is going to be how to get a holistic picture of that. So it's going to take a little work on our end, but I think you definitely should expect it. Just probably don't have it for you today.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Don't feel any pressure today. Like I said, there's going to be, several months to give feedback. So, we really appreciate it though. Denny, please go ahead.
Raven. Yeah, thank you for bringing this together, and I really do appreciate the preliminary discussion. I think, for our purposes, we're really good at responding to something. So if I don't know if you're planning to send out like, these are a list of factors we're considering, and we can respond, or if you're looking for us to kind of generate, we're happy to go that route as well. I will say, we do have a few actuarial firms that we can recommend, and that we know have been utilized in other states. And so happy to send you, a list. I would imagine there are some factors that you're going to want to collect that would not be reflective of unintentional bias, so age, loss history, driving record, coverage. Your premiums are obviously going to vary based on your coverage selected. Your liability limits, physical damage deductibles, the vehicle age, number of drivers, number of vehicles, your annual mileage, your year's license, stuff like that. That's obviously not, that may affect the premiums you pay, but is not, in our view, would be reflective of any kind of unintentional bias. And so I think, ensuring that those are part of the data that's collected would be really, really helpful.
Okay, that's helpful feedback. Thank you, Denny. Okay. Yeah, I know this is going to be, probably millions of data points, which is why we definitely have to contract this out. So it's a huge, very huge project, but yeah, we can, we can generate a list of factors after having some more meetings, with other actuaries, and then, I can send that out for you to get your feedback on it, or to edit, to add to it. So thank you for that suggestion as well. Kenton.
Thanks, Raven. Following up on what Denny and Brandon said, maybe a place to start, as you've just suggested, is to have some of the factors you believe sort of the low-hanging fruit of what we'll want to collect, and ask insurers to add to it. So just share that out and maybe even sort of create a survey of sorts to send to the RAC participants for us to share with our member companies, et cetera, and consider other factors or questions that you've kind of asked here, but maybe put it in a survey format so that we can get it out broadly and get responses back from the broadest possible group of participants. Might just better inform the work in time for, move things along faster. Like Denny says, we're better at responding to specific questions or challenges than we are at divining things on our own to provide to you.
Okay, thanks, Kenton. Yeah, that is a great idea to do like a survey that you all can kind of respond to, and include like a list of initial factors maybe that we can kind of scope out and add to. Jeff, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Thanks. So a couple of things also, as you contemplate this, carriers will organize and store data differently. Some of the data you look for probably doesn't exist, or some people don't collect it. Confidentiality of all of this data is going to be paramount because most of the companies will view this as competitively valuable. So it's just, I mean, you guys are looking at, I think you probably understand this, a massive undertaking at this point. And so, there are firms that the industry, I think, has worked with in similar projects like this. And I'm sure as you get into the RFP process, there'll be some recommendations and you'll get some sort of common feedback, I'm sure, on that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. That's super important about the confidentiality piece, and how you all, store data differently. Thank you for bringing up those issues as well. Yeah, because we want to make this as feasible as possible for you all once we, you know, kind of nail down the elements and all of that, frequency, format, things like that. So, yeah, very good feedback. Um, Anybody else? Okay, what about going back to the BizG methodology? Are there any initial thoughts on that, or on, other databases? Kenton, please go ahead.
I will make this brief because I know Denny will have even more informed comments than mine. I think that when we all talked about this during the course of the legislative session, leading up to the legislative session, one of the things I heard was from our members was, BizG is what it is, but it may not be the only or best proxy methodology. So I would just vote for considering others. I don't know what they are. I'm not an expert in that area in any way, shape, or form. So just if there are others, I think we'd love the opportunity to share any industry thoughts on what those other proxy methodologies might be, and I'll hand it off to others to expound further. Thanks.
Okay, great. That sounds good, Kenton. Thank you. Denny.
Thank you, Raven. I'm told that there is also a BizFG, which uses both the first and last names. That might be a little bit more accurate. It's still not 100%, and I think we have a lot of heartburn about that. And maybe we mentioned this during the conversations last fall and early this spring, but we, based on focus groups that we've done in Colorado and DC around this issue, the only thing that people hate more than us asking them for their, racial and ethnic data is us guessing about their racial and ethnic data. So, I guess I say all of that to say there is no perfect system that we're aware of. I think BizFG is slightly more accurate than BizG. I'm asking for more information about, I think there was a methodology employed by the Pennsylvania Department of Insurance in a 2016 study they did. So I'm looking for if I can get more information about that to see if that might be a helpful, avenue to point you towards. Certainly, we don't want to collect the data, and that's what this whole, kind of spawned this. So, if there's a better method, we will do our best to point you guys to it.
Okay, thank you, Denny. Michael, did you have your hand up? Did you? have something?
Yes, I did. Michael DeLong from the Consumer Federation of America. We are open to looking at different methodologies, whatever is most accurate in measuring racial discrimination, but we would be strongly opposed to any kind of methodology or approach that waters down like the data. We need more comprehensive data as well. Unfortunately, there's been a pretty long history of racism and racial discrimination in insurance. It's essential that we quantify that. We did some work with the National Association of Insurance Commissioners on this, the Special Committee on Race and Insurance, which did a bunch of good things. But unfortunately, that committee got shut down at the end of last year. And so we would hope that maybe in this study could do something similar to that, except even more expanded. And we're ready to help however we can.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Michael.
On BISG, the one thing I would mention is you might check in with the RAND Corporation. They developed the methodology, and if you read any of their information, it's really intended for use in tracking healthcare outcomes and populations for health related reasons. They developed it, so I mean, whether it's appropriate for this context is also a question.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right. Okay, very good. All right. Are there any other initial perspectives? I know it's a lot and we're gonna, break it down, but, definitely happy to have this kickoff meeting and get this conversation started for the rulemaking. Okay. All right. I am not seeing any other hands. So, like I said, I know this is a complex issue, sensitive. We really value your time on this and your perspectives. This is a collaborative process. So as for, the timeline is flexible. Next steps, I'm scheduling out meetings with others. Going to be starting to work on the RFP documents in August. So, like I said, the next RAC meeting might not be scheduled until October or November, but look out for that. I really like the idea of sending out a survey, like Kenton said. So I think I will plan on doing that. Just to kind of send out some of these general questions to get kind of more responses so that can inform some of our work. But, feel free to share input with me, in the interim ahead of our next meeting. There will be plenty of time after our second RAC meeting as well, to get some written comments in and as we move forward with this. Yeah, so that's really the bulk of what I kind of had to share with you today. Are there any other, questions or comments on this, or anything I can try to clarify at this point? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I will plan on sending out a survey within the next couple of weeks to you. And please do, if you get a chance, email me about the actuarial firms, so we can kind of connect with those folks ahead of the RFP, the whole process. And just let me know if you have any questions, concerns, and I will email the group, like I said, within the next couple weeks. Look for a meeting invite as well down the line. And, just really appreciate your all of your expertise and your input and, appreciate you working together on this. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And thank you so much for the time.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Thanks, Raven.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.